The massive ships appeared in Earth's skies without warning. They hung there dark against the blue like mountains floating in air. People around the world stopped and stared upward. Some ran, some prayed, some grabbed their phones to record what might be humanity's last moments. In Washington, D.C., Admiral Frank Miller was pulled from a budget meeting by an urgent call. The 58-year-old naval commander had weathered many crises in his career, but nothing like this. "How many?" he asked, his voice steady despite the sweat forming on his brow. "7 major vessels, sir," replied the nervous aide beside him, each one approximately 3 miles long. They're positioning themselves above major cities: New York, Beijing, London, Moscow, New Delhi, Tokyo, and Rio. Miller nodded, his gray eyes narrowing as he watched the live satellite feed. "And our attempts at communication?" "No response yet, sir. We've tried all frequencies, even mathematical sequences. The UN Security Council is meeting in 10 minutes. The Admiral straightened, his uniform jacket. "Get me there, and contact Dr. West. If anyone can make sense of this, it's her." Dr. Susan West was already at the United Nations when Miller arrived. The former Secretary of State had been called in for her expertise in diplomacy and crisis management. At 52, she had negotiated peace deals in conflict zones around the world. But first contact with an alien species was something else entirely. "Frank," she greeted him with a nod. "Looks like all those alien invasion movies weren't so far-fetched after all." "Let's hope they got the ending right," Miller replied grimly. The emergency session was chaotic. Representatives from nearly every nation talked over each other, some demanding immediate military response, others cautioning restraint. The debate ended abruptly when all screens in the chamber suddenly displayed the same image: a tall, humanoid figure with scale-like skin and eyes that seemed to change color as it moved. "People of Earth," the being spoke, its voice perfectly translated into each listener's native language. "I am High Commander Zix Var of the Galactic Hegemony. Your world has been selected for integration into our collective. This is an honor granted to few." Susan leaned toward Miller. "They're speaking English. They've been studying us," the alien continued. "The hegemony spans thousands of star systems. We bring order, advancement, and protection. Your resources will serve the greater good, and in return, you will receive the benefits of our 10,000 years of civilization." A brave diplomat from Sweden spoke up. "And if we decline this in honor?" The alien's eyes shifted to a deep purple color. "Decline? There is no declining. This is simply how the galaxy functions. The strong guide the weak. You will find our rule beneficial compared to your current chaotic state." "They don't see this as a choice," Susan whispered. "This is their normal." The world leaders were given 1 hour to absorb this information before a formal meeting would begin. In a side room, a hastily assembled crisis team gathered: military commanders, scientists, diplomats, and intelligence officers from a dozen nations. "They're not here to destroy us," Dr. West explained to the room. "They want our resources, our planet. That gives us some leverage. They could have simply wiped us out if that was their goal." "What kind of numbers are we looking at?" asked General Li from China. Admiral Miller pulled up the preliminary data. "Our best estimates suggest each of those ships could hold between 50 and 100,000 individuals. Their technology is clearly far beyond ours. Any direct military confrontation would be inadvisable." "So we just surrender?" demanded the Russian defense minister. "No," Dr. West said firmly. "We negotiate, we learn, we buy time." When the hour was up, a small delegation was chosen to meet with the aliens face-to-face. Dr. West would lead, with Admiral Miller representing Earth's military, along with representatives from China, Russia, India, and Brazil. They were transported to the ship, hovering above New York by some kind of beam technology that felt like stepping through a doorway. One moment they were in the UN building, the next inside a vast chamber with walls that seemed to shift colors like the aliens' eyes. High Commander Zix Var stood waiting with several other aliens of slightly different appearance, Some smaller, some with different colored scales, but all with the same air of absolute certainty. "Welcome aboard the Celestial Authority," Zixvar said with a gesture that might have been meant as welcoming. "You have been chosen as your planet's representatives, based on our analysis of your power structures. We appreciate the invitation," Dr. West replied carefully. "But we have many questions about what integration into your hegemony would mean for our people." The alien made that strange gesture again. "Of course. All new protectorate species do. You will maintain local governance under hegemony oversight. Resource quotas will be established. Your more destructive technologies will be removed for safety. Your scientific development will be guided along appropriate paths." Admiral Miller stepped forward. "And our military forces?" "Disbanded, naturally," the alien replied, as if stating the obvious. "The hegemony provides all necessary protection. Your species' notable aggression makes this step essential." Dr. West could see Miller's jaw tighten, but he remained silent. "How many other species are part of this hegemony?" she asked. 10,472 at current count, Zixvar answered promptly. "Some joined willingly, recognizing the benefits. Others required more persuasion. All now prosper under our guidance." "And have any ever successfully resisted?" the Chinese representative asked. The alien's eyes shifted to a dark blue. "A curious question. There have been attempts, yes. None succeeded. The hegemony has perfected the integration process over millennia." The meeting continued for hours. The more they learned, the clearer it became. The Navorians, as their species was called, genuinely believed they were offering Earth a gift. They couldn't comprehend refusal, because in their experience resistance always failed eventually. As they prepared to return to Earth, Zixvar handed Dr. West a small device. "This contains information about your new status and expectations. We will allow 30 days for your world to prepare for formal integration. This is generous by our standards." Back on Earth, an emergency United Nations session was called. As representatives from every nation gathered, Admiral Miller and Dr. West presented what they had learned. "They're not evil in the way we might understand it," Dr. West explained. "They truly believe they're helping less developed species by bringing them into their empire. But make no mistake, it's still conquest, just with a polite face." Admiral Miller stood next. "Their technology vastly outmatches ours. Conventional warfare would be suicide. But they're overconfident. They've done this thousands of times and expect us to follow the same pattern as all the others. Initial resistance, then surrender when we realize how hopeless it is." He looked around the room gravely. "Ladies and gentlemen, for the first time, in human history, every nation on Earth faces the same threat. We must put aside our differences and work together, or we will lose everything that makes us who we are." Dr. West nodded in agreement. "The Navorians have given us 30 days. They think it's time for us to accept our fate. Instead, it will be time for us to show them exactly who they're dealing with." As the meeting concluded, Admiral Miller turned to Dr. West. "They have no idea what they've just started, do they?" "No," she said quietly. "They really don't." The 30 days given by the Navorians became the most unified period in human history. Old enemies worked together. Scientists shared secrets. Soldiers trained side by side. The entire planet focused on one goal: survival. In an underground base, beneath the Rocky Mountains, Captain Alan Boyd wiped sweat from his forehead as he studied the alien technology before him. At 35, he was one of the top engineers in the U.S. military, with a gift for understanding how things worked. Now, that gift might help save humanity. "Anything new?" asked Dr. Lisa Hayes as she entered the lab. The 42-year-old physicist had been working on theoretical faster-than-light travel for years. Most people had called her ideas impossible before the aliens arrived. "Their power systems are different from anything I've seen," Boyd said, pointing to the open panel of the small Navorian scout craft. The ship had crashed in the upper atmosphere due to a solar flare 2 days after first contact. But the basic principles are there. They're just better at it than we are. "Better how?" Lisa asked, leaning in to examine the strange crystalline components. It's like comparing a stone axe to a laser cutter, Boyd explained. Same purpose, vastly different execution. He pointed to a particular crystal. This thing generates more power than a nuclear reactor, and it's the size of my fist. Lisa nodded. The good news is they've had this technology so long they've stopped innovating. Everything is standardized across their fleet. If we can understand one system, we can understand them all, Boyd finished. That's our edge. They've forgotten how to adapt. Across the globe in similar facilities, teams worked on different aspects of Earth's response. In Japan, scientists reverse-engineered Navorian communication systems. In Russia, military strategists studied alien tactical patterns from data stolen during the first meeting. In Brazil, biologists analyzed Navorian biology looking for weaknesses. Admiral Miller coordinated everything from the newly formed United Earth Defense Council headquarters. Representatives from every major nation gathered there, setting aside centuries of conflict for the greater threat. Where are we on the pulse weapon? Miller asked during the daily briefing, 15 days into their preparation. Dr. Hayes, joining via secure video, looked tired but determined. We've adapted the concept from their own communication technology. They use electromagnetic waves to transmit data across vast distances. We can use the same principles to disrupt their systems. Will it kill them? Asked the representative. From India. No, Lisa replied. But it will blind them. Their ships, their weapons, their communications, all disabled temporarily. Miller nodded. That gives us the window we need. Status on the infiltration team? On screen, Agent Peter Collins appeared. The 40-year-old intelligence operative had a talent for blending in and going unnoticed, skills that had proven useful, even with aliens. I've successfully accessed their database, he reported. He had managed to infiltrate one of the small outposts the Navorians had established on Earth to begin their survey of the planet. They've done this hundreds of times. Same playbook every time, shock and awe, limited engagement, then resource extraction. And the resistance they mentioned? Miller asked. Usually minimal, Collins said. They target worlds without unified governments or advanced technology. We're the most developed world they've tried to absorb in over a century. He paused. They're overconfident. They don't even encrypt most of their data because they don't expect anyone to access their systems. Dr. West, who had been leading diplomatic efforts, spoke next. I've kept them talking. They seem amused by our primitive attempts to negotiate better terms. This gives us cover for our preparations. Miller looked around at the assembled leaders. 28 ships are now in Earth orbit. We estimate 1.5 million Navorians total. They could glass our major cities in minutes if they wanted to. But they won't because they want our resources intact. That's our only advantage. He stood up straighter. In 15 days, they expect our surrender. Instead, they'll get our answer. The next 2 weeks passed quickly. On the 25th day, Captain Boyd made a breakthrough. We can use their own energy signatures against them, he explained to Miller and the Council. Every Navorian ship emits a specific pattern. If we can match it precisely, we can bypass their defensive systems. They'll read our weapons as friendly signals. Can we get that working in 5 days? Miller asked. Boyd looked at Dr. Hayes, who nodded confidently. Already on it, sir. On the 28th day, Agent Collins sent his last transmission from the Navorian outpost. They're preparing for the integration ceremony. No military buildup. They genuinely don't expect resistance. This is the best chance we'll ever have. Unfortunately, his signal was detected. The Navorians, realizing a human had infiltrated their systems, increased security, but remained confident. To them, this last-minute desperation only confirmed humanity's weakness. High Commander Zixvar called Dr. West that evening. We detected your spy, he said, his eyes shifting to an amused yellow color. A clever attempt, but futile. I hope this small act of defiance has satisfied your species' pride. Dr. West kept her expression neutral. We're simply trying to understand our new place in the galaxy. Understanding will come with time, Zixvar said. 2 more days, Dr. West. Then the better future begins. On the final day before the deadline, hundreds of satellites were quietly moved into new positions around the Earth. Modified with the technology developed by Captain Boyd and Dr. Hayes, they looked like normal communication satellites to Navorian scans. In bases around the world, pilots trained on simulators that mimicked Navorian ships, using data stolen by Collins. Engineers added alien-inspired modifications to conventional fighter jets. Every soldier, sailor, and Air Force member stood ready. Admiral Miller addressed the United Earth Defense Council one last time before operations began. Tomorrow, the Navorians expect us to bow our heads and accept their rule. They believe we'll recognize the futility of resistance like so many species before us. He looked at each person in the room. But there's something they don't understand about humans. Throughout our history, we've faced impossible odds. We've stared into the abyss of our own extinction many times, through war, disease, disaster, and each time we've refused to go quietly. Dr. West stood beside him. They expect us to behave logically, to see their overwhelming power and surrender. They don't understand that humans have never been purely logical creatures. We hope when reason says to despair. We fight when logic says to yield. Miller nodded. Operation Defiance begins at 800 tomorrow. If we succeed, humanity keeps its freedom. If we fail... He paused. Well, we'll make sure they remember us either way. As the meeting ended, Captain Boyd approached Dr. Hayes in the hallway. Do you think this will work? He asked quietly. She considered for a moment. The math says we have about a 30% chance of success. But the math doesn't know humans very well. She smiled slightly. I'd put our odds much higher. Boyd nodded. In 24 hours, we'll find out if the Galactic Hegemony made the biggest mistake in their 10,000-year history. I think they did, Hayes replied. They chose Earth. The morning of the 30th day dawned clear and bright. Around the world, people looked up at the Navorian ships with a mixture of fear and defiance. Most didn't know about Operation Defiance, but they could feel the tension in the air. In orbit, the Navorian fleet began to move into position. Their massive ships formed a pattern above Earth's major cities. From their command ship, High Commander Zixvar watched with satisfaction. This was always his favorite part, the moment when a new world accepted its place in the Great Hegemony. Begin the integration protocol, he ordered. Inform the humans it is time. His communications officer sent the message to Earth. On every screen, radio, and phone across the planet, the Navorian announcement played. People of Earth, the time has come to join the Galactic Hegemony. Lower your defenses and prepare for integration. In the United Earth Defense Council headquarters, Admiral Miller received the message with a grim smile. Right on schedule, he said. He turned to the operators at their stations. Are all satellites in position? Yes, sir, came the reply. All 437 units ready, waiting for your command. Miller took a deep breath. He looked at Dr. West, who nodded, encouragingly. Activate Operation Defiance, he ordered. Now. Around the Earth, the seemingly ordinary satellites suddenly came to life. Each one powered up the electromagnetic pulse technology developed by Dr. Hayes. The pulses were invisible but powerful, tuned to the exact frequency of Navorian systems. On the Navorian ships, alarms began to sound. Screens flickered and went dark. Communication systems failed. Weapon systems went offline. The massive vessels weren't destroyed, but they were suddenly blind, deaf, and defenseless. High Commander Zixvar's eyes flashed a shocked red. What is happening? He demanded. Unknown energy pulse, Commander, an officer replied, frantically, working controls that no longer responded. It's affecting all systems. We've lost communications with the fleet. Defense systems are offline. Impossible, Zixvar hissed. They're primitives. On Earth, Miller watched the chaos on their monitoring systems. Phase 1 complete, he announced. The EMP worked. Their ships are disabled. He turned to the Air Force general beside him. Launch the fighters. Around the world, hangar doors opened. Fighter jets rolled out onto runways. Each one had been modified with technology reverse-engineered from the Navorians. They wouldn't match alien ships in normal circumstances, but against disabled vessels they had a chance. Major Kevin Russell led the first squadron from a base in Nevada. At 38, he had flown combat missions in several conflicts, but nothing compared to this. He felt the weight of humanity on his shoulders as his jet raced down the runway. "Eagle Squadron, form up," he called to his pilots as they lifted into the sky. "Remember your training. Remember the plan. We don't need to destroy them all. Just show them we're not easy prey." 48 fighter squadrons worldwide, over 500 planes total, rose to meet the disabled Navorian fleet. Each carried weapons designed to bypass alien shielding, another gift from Captain Boyd's research. "Target the command ship," Russell ordered his squadron. "That's where the High Commander is. All other squadrons focus on your assigned targets." The jets streaked upward, breaking through clouds and continuing to climb. Soon they could see the massive alien vessels hanging in the sky. Usually invisible behind advanced cloaking technology, the ships now stood exposed, their systems disrupted by the electromagnetic pulses. "I have visual on the command ship," Russell reported, beginning attack run. The Navorians, for the first time in centuries, felt fear. They had conquered countless worlds, but always with overwhelming technological superiority. No species had ever turned their own technology against them like this. Inside the Navorian command ship, High Commander Zixvar watched helplessly as human fighters approached. "Get our defenses back online," he shouted. "Working, sir," his officers replied. "But the disruption is unlike anything we've encountered." Russell's squadron fired their missiles. The weapons were small compared to the massive alien ship, but they had been precisely targeted at the vessel's key systems, identified from the data Agent Collins had stolen. "Direct hits," Russell reported as explosions bloomed across the command ship's hull. "Move to Phase 2. From another base, Commander Olivia Martinez led a special team of soldiers. Unlike the fighters attacking from outside, her mission was to board the Navorian command ship. Her transport, a modified military aircraft equipped with Navorian docking technology, approached the damaged vessel. "We're in position," Martinez reported. Her team of 20 elite soldiers checked their weapons and gear. Each carried non-lethal stun weapons, also based on Navorian technology. Beginning docking procedure. The transport attached to an emergency airlock on the command ship. Using codes obtained by Agent Collins, they bypassed the security systems and entered the alien vessel. "Remember," Martinez told her team as they moved through the corridors, "we're here for the High Commander. Avoid casualties if possible. These aren't our enemies. They're just following orders." The Navorian crew, unused to actual combat, offered little resistance. Most had never faced a serious threat in their lives. When confronted with determined human soldiers, they quickly surrendered. Martinez's team fought their way to the command center. The doors were sealed, but Captain Boyd had prepared for this. "Use the bypass device," Martinez ordered. A soldier placed a small device on the door. It emitted a pulse that matched the Navorian security protocols. The doors slid open, revealing High Commander Zixvar and his senior officers. "What is the meaning of this?" Zixvar demanded, his eyes now a mixture of angry red and fearful blue. "You cannot board a hegemony vessel. This is unprecedented." "Get used to it," Martinez replied, her weapon trained on him. "Humans specialize in unprecedented." She spoke into her communication device. "Command, this is Martinez. We have secured the target. Repeat, High Commander is in custody." Outside, the fighter squadrons continued their precisely targeted attacks. They weren't trying to destroy the Navorian fleet, just demonstrate that they could hurt them if they wanted to. Major Russell led his squadron in another pass. All targets hit. Minimal alien casualties, maximum impact achieved. Back at headquarters, Admiral Miller received the reports with growing satisfaction. "Phase 2 complete," he announced to the Council. "High Commander captured. Fleet disabled. Prepare for Phase 3. Dr. West stepped forward. "I'll prepare the broadcast." Miller nodded. "Make sure every world in the hegemony sees it." It's time they learned that Earth is not like other worlds they've conquered. Around the planet, people watched in amazement as human forces overwhelmed the supposedly invincible alien armada. Cheers erupted in every city as news spread of humanity's unlikely victory. In the holding area where Martinez's team had secured him, High Commander HFY sat in stunned silence. For the first time in his long life, he faced something the hegemony had never encountered before, a species that refused to be conquered. How? He finally asked Martinez, who stood guard nearby. How did you defeat our technology? She smiled, slightly. We didn't defeat it. We learned from it. That's what humans do. We adapt. Your mistake was thinking we would react like all the others. The High Commander's eyes shifted to a dark purple of confusion. What happens now? Now, Martinez replied, we send a message to your hegemony, and I don't think they're going to like what we have to say. The United Earth Defense Council chamber buzzed with activity as technicians prepared for the most important broadcast in human history. Dr. Susan West reviewed her notes one final time. The words she was about to speak would reach not just the remaining Navorian fleet, but the entire galactic hegemony across thousands of star systems. Are you ready? Admiral Miller asked, standing beside her. His uniform was crisp, his expression determined. As ready as anyone can be to address an empire of 10,000 worlds, she replied with a small smile. Is our guest prepared? Miller nodded. Commander Martinez is bringing him now. The doors opened and Commander Olivia Martinez led in the captured High Commander HFY. The alien scales had dulled from their usual bright color, showing his stress. His hands were bound with restraints designed by Captain Boyd, simple but effective. This is a violation of all hegemony protocols, HFY protested as he was led to a position behind Dr. West. No representative of the hegemony has ever been taken captive. There's a first time for everything, Miller replied calmly. Dr. Hayes approached from a console where she had been working. The broadcast system is ready, she said. We're using their own communication technology. Every hegemony world will receive this transmission simultaneously. Good, Miller said. He turned to Dr. West. It's your show now, Susan. Dr. West took her position in front of the camera. She wore a simple blue suit, her gray-streaked hair pulled back neatly. She wanted to appear professional but not threatening, firm but not aggressive. Beginning transmission in 3, 2, 1. The technician counted down. The red light on the camera came on. Dr. West looked directly into it, her expression confident but not proud. People of the galactic hegemony, she began, her voice clear and steady. I am Dr. Susan West of Earth. For those unfamiliar with our world, we are the blue planet third from our sun, in what you call Sector 8742. Behind her, the camera showed footage of the disabled Navorian ships and the captured High Commander. Your forces arrived at our world 30 days ago with the intention of conquest, disguised as benevolence. Today, we have responded. The footage shifted to show the electromagnetic pulse weapons in action, the fighter squadrons approaching the disabled ships, and Martinez's team capturing the command center. In 30 days, we did what you thought impossible. We studied your technology. We found its weaknesses. We adapted it to our needs. And we defeated your forces. Dr. West's tone remained measured, neither boastful nor angry. We did this not because we are naturally superior, but because you underestimated us. You assumed that because your technology was more advanced, victory was assured. You forgot that technology is only as effective as the minds that wield it. She gestured to the captured High Commander behind her. High Commander HFY is unharmed, as are most of your personnel. We have no desire for unnecessary bloodshed. Admiral Miller stepped forward to stand beside her. I am Admiral Frank Miller, of Earth's United Defense Forces. We want to be absolutely clear about our intentions. We have no interest in conquest. We don't want your worlds or your resources. We only want our freedom. Miller's voice was firm, his military bearing evident. Earth is not a prize to be claimed. We will return your personnel unharmed, but the hegemony must acknowledge Earth's sovereignty and our protected status. Dr. Hayes joined them next, holding a data device. I am Dr. Lisa Hayes, lead scientist on Earth's defense project. Using your own communication technology, we are now distributing the specifications for our electromagnetic pulse weapons to every world in the hegemony. Her words caused visible distress to Zixvar, whose eyes flashed a panicked red. Any species you've oppressed now has the means to disable your ships just as we did, Hayes continued. This isn't meant as a threat but as a balancing of power. Technology should unite us, not divide us into rulers and ruled. The camera focused back on Dr. West. We believe the galaxy is big enough for all of us to live freely. We wish to establish peaceful relations with the hegemony and all its worlds, but this must be based on mutual respect, not dominance. She looked directly into the camera, her expression serious. Know this: if you return with hostile intentions, you will find Earth even more prepared. This was our response with 30 days of preparation. Imagine what we could do with a year, or 10. We hope it doesn't come to that. Admiral Miller concluded the broadcast. We await your response. Earth, out. The red light went off. The room was silent for a moment, then erupted in applause. For the first time in recorded history, a world had successfully defied the galactic hegemony. High Commander Zixvar was led back to his holding area, his expression troubled. Do you understand what you've done? He asked Dr. West as he passed her. You've potentially destabilized 10,000 years of order. Perhaps it was an order that needed disrupting, she replied calmly. In the hours that followed, reports came in from around the solar system. The remaining Navorian ships had backed away to a safe distance but hadn't left completely. They seemed to be waiting for instructions from their central government. In the council chamber, Earth's leaders gathered to discuss next steps. How long until we get a response? Asked the representative from Brazil. Their central government is located in what we would call the Andromeda Galaxy, Dr. Hayes explained. Even with their faster-than-light communication, it could take hours. Captain Boyd, who had been monitoring the alien technology, spoke up. We're detecting massive communication traffic between hegemony worlds. Our broadcast definitely got their attention. And the weapon specifications? Miller asked. Downloaded by at least 300 worlds already, Boyd confirmed. Mostly smaller, recently conquered systems. Dr. West nodded thoughtfully. Then, we've achieved our goal. Even if they wanted to retaliate against us, they now have hundreds of other potential uprisings to worry about. What's our next move? Martinez asked, having returned from securing the High Commander. We wait, Miller replied. The ball is in their court now. As night fell across Earth, the planet held its breath. In homes and shelters, people watched and rewatched the broadcast. Some celebrated what looked like victory. Others worried about what might come next. But all felt something they hadn't felt since the alien ships first appeared. Hope. In his secured quarters, High Commander Zixvar sat alone, contemplating the day's events. In 10,000 years of hegemony history, nothing like this had ever happened. The humans hadn't just resisted, they had changed the rules of the game entirely. And somewhere in the vast chambers of power in the distant hegemony capital, the rulers of 10,000 worlds faced an uncomfortable question. What do you do when a species refuses to be conquered? 6 months passed since Earth's defiance of the galactic hegemony. The response had not been what anyone expected. After 3 tense days of waiting, a new fleet arrived, not to attack, but to negotiate. The hegemony's Central Council, faced with reports of unrest on hundreds of worlds inspired by Earth's example, had made an unprecedented decision. Earth would be recognized as a sovereign power. On a bright spring morning, Dr. Susan West stood on the steps of the newly constructed Galactic Embassy in Geneva. At 53, she had never imagined her diplomatic career would lead to becoming Earth's first ambassador to the stars. Ready, Madam Ambassador? Asked her aide. West straightened her formal jacket and nodded. As ready as I'll ever be. Inside the grand hall, representatives from over 50 hegemony worlds waited, Some were Navorians, like the former High Commander Zixvar, but many were from species Earth had never seen before, proof of the true diversity of the galaxy. The new hegemony representative, a more diplomatic figure named Trelsov, approached West as she entered. Unlike Zixvar's aggressive confidence, Trelsov carried himself with careful respect. "Ambassador West," he greeted her, bowing slightly. "The Council welcomes Earth to this historic gathering." "Thank you, Representative Trelsov," she replied. "Earth is pleased to join the galactic community as an equal partner." They moved to the central table where the formal recognition would be signed. Earth would not become part of the hegemony, but would be recognized as an independent power with its own sphere of influence. "Your species acted unexpectedly," Trelsov admitted quietly as they walked. "The hegemony has existed for 10,000 years because we believed our way was the only way." "That's the thing about humans," West replied with a smile. "We never accept that there's only one way to do things." The ceremony proceeded smoothly. When West signed the document officially establishing Earth's independence, applause filled the room, not just from the human representatives, but from many of the alien delegates as well. Change was coming to the galaxy, and many welcomed it. Meanwhile, in orbit above Earth, Captain Alan Boyd, now Admiral Boyd, inspected Earth's growing fleet of hybrid ships. Using Navorian technology combined with human innovation, these vessels represented a new era for humanity. "System check complete, Admiral," reported his first officer. "All 20 vessels ready for the demonstration." Boyd nodded with satisfaction. "Signal the diplomatic corps that we're ready when they are." After the signing ceremony, the delegates would witness Earth's new defensive capabilities, not as a threat, but as a demonstration that humans were now capable of protecting themselves. In her laboratory at the New Earth Institute of Interstellar Studies, Dr. Lisa Hayes reviewed data from across the galaxy. Information flowed freely now between Earth and many hegemony worlds, especially those that had used Hayes's electromagnetic pulse technology to gain more autonomy. "Dr. Hayes," her assistant called, "you have a transmission from Proxima Centauri." Hayes looked up in surprise. "Put it through." The screen lit up with the image of an alien she recognized as one of the formerly subjugated species. They had established their own government after using Earth's shared technology. "Dr. Hayes," the alien spoke, its translator converting its musical language to English. "Our council has approved the joint research project. We are ready to begin work on the new drive system whenever you are." Hayes smiled. "That's wonderful news. I'll prepare my team immediately." This was what she had hoped for. Not just independence for Earth, but true cooperation between worlds. Science without the constraints of hegemony control. Back at the ceremony, Ambassador West introduced the next speaker, Commander Olivia Martinez, now General Martinez, head of Earth's new combined defense forces. "The events of 6 months ago taught us many things," Martinez told the assembled delegates. "We learned about new technologies, new cultures, and new possibilities. But the most important lesson was one we already knew. Freedom must sometimes be defended." She gestured to the view screen showing Earth's new fleet in orbit. "These ships are not meant for conquest. They are guardians of Earth's sovereignty, nothing more. We have no desire to build an empire of our own." In the audience, former High Commander Zixvar listened with mixed emotions. He had been among the first to recognize that the old ways of the hegemony could not continue. After his return, he had argued for a new approach, one of cooperation rather than domination. Not all in the hegemony agreed, but enough did to begin the process of change. After the ceremony concluded, Admiral Miller, now retired and serving as an advisor to Earth's government, watched the proceedings from his office. A communication alert sounded on his screen. "Admiral Miller," came a voice from a distant star. "This is Elder Kivra of Velshan. We wish to express our gratitude for your world's actions. After centuries under hegemony control, we have regained our independence." Miller smiled. "We're glad to hear it, Elder. Earth stands ready to establish peaceful relations with Velshan. Our people will remember Earth's courage for generations to come," the Elder replied. When the communication ended, Miller looked out his window at the sky. The stars seemed different now, full of possibility rather than threat. That evening, Earth's leaders hosted a reception for the visiting delegates. As humans and aliens mingled, sharing stories and ideas, West found herself beside Trelsov again. "I must admit," the hegemony representative said, "when I was assigned to this position, I expected to find a world of warriors. Instead, I find scientists, diplomats, artists. We're all of those things," West replied. "Humans contain multitudes. We can fight when necessary, but we prefer to build, to explore, to create. The galaxy will be different because of Earth," Trelsov observed. "I hope it will be better," West said. Across the room, Dr. Hayes was deep in conversation with scientists from 3 different worlds, while General Martinez exchanged stories with military leaders from formerly oppressed planets. In orbit, Admiral Boyd's fleet performed precise maneuvers, demonstrating Earth's new capabilities while broadcasting a message of peace. The ships formed a pattern that could be seen from the surface, the outline of an olive branch, the ancient human symbol for peace. As night fell across Geneva, the lights of the Galactic Embassy shone brightly. Inside, humans and aliens danced to Earth music, sampled foods from a dozen worlds, and spoke of future collaborations. Earth had found its place among the stars, not as a conquered world or even as a conqueror, but as something new in the EU galaxy, a catalyst for change, a defender of freedom, and a bridge between ways of life. The universe had gained a new power, not an empire built on conquest, but a defender of self-determination. And the galactic hegemony had learned a valuable lesson: never underestimate a species that had spent its entire history overcoming the impossible.